702.
The Big Interview
With Bongani Bingwa.
It's 7:15 onto this. I mean, it's a story that sounds almost unbelievable. And of course, if true, it could have profound implications for public health, food safety, and the global fight against antimicrobial resistance. Reports from Zimbabwe suggest some poultry farmers are allegedly feeding antiretroviral medicines to chickens. These are the ARVs that are meant for HIV treatment. This is in the belief that the drugs help the birds grow faster and survive disease. The practice has alarmed scientists and public health experts, not only because ARVs are life-saving medicines for people living with HIV, but because their misuse in livestock could have unintended consequences that will extend far beyond the farm. South Africa is already battling one of the world's biggest burdens of antimicrobial resistance, where bacteria, viruses, and other microbes become resistant to medicines that once killed them. So experts are warning that the misuse of medicines anywhere along the food chain can increase the risk of resistant organisms emerging, threatening both animal and human health. We're joined now by Dr. Linda Besta, the Deputy Chair of the Animal Research Ethics Committee at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Dr. Besta, very good morning to you, and thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning, Bongani. Thank you for having me.
I mean, say it isn't true. Tell me it ain't so.
I wish I could, but unfortunately, I believe these farmers are desperate, and they're using these HIV pills in their chicken field, and obviously it's illegal black market tricks, and they hope it helps to keep their chickens healthy and their profits a bit more.
When you first heard the reports that some farmers were allegedly feeding ARVs to chicken to promote health, as a scientist, what was your immediate reaction?
Well, obviously deep concern, because as a researcher at UKZN and we're studying food safety, if you're putting medicines, any medicines into animal feed, and that is definitely a recipe for disaster. So it really makes the meat dangerous, and obviously it creates this drug-resistant germs that we really don't want into our health system.
But, I mean, does it work? Does it at least do what those who practice believe it does?
No. It's a complete myth. It does not. HIV drugs do not build chicken muscle. They, like our animals are already genetically engineered to grow faster, normal broiler chickens. So the effect is more like a water retention and a redistribution of unhealthy fat. So the birds really do look bigger, but it's just a watery chemical bloating. It's really not real, and it's really unethically. I can't imagine the metabolic state that these animals are in.
One farmer, though, who told the Southern Africa Accountability Journalism Project that her operation grew from 200 to 10,000 birds per 2-year cycle period, convinced it works.
Yeah, but it's an illusion. Like I said, the chickens really do grow fast because they are genetically engineered. So they bloat up quickly, and the farmers then slaughter at 4 weeks instead of 6. So the common diseases of broiler chickens start normally around 5 weeks. So they basically kill these unhealthy bloated chickens off even before they get there. So it's really not a miracle. It's just timing tricking, outrunning the natural cause of diseases of chickens rather than slaughtering them early, but it's a chemical bloated animal that they are slaughtering.
So, I mean, it appears there's quite an organized black market network that supplies ARVs for this purpose.
It's unfortunately, it seems to be people getting human medication that is leaked into the system. So it's a bit sad that they are basically stealing these life-saving medications and then using it as an agricultural commodity. It's basically a serious crime. I think it should really be a concern for the Zimbabwean authorities.
I mean, it offends everything from an ethical point of view if you consider the fight that we once had to even get these drugs to be distributed in the way that they're available to people these days. And if you think of the number of people who died unable to access them, to only now find out this is what they're being used for, rather, it really is quite shocking. And let's be clear, Dr. Besta, medicines for animals are not approved in the same way as they are for people.
No, they are all controlled under a watchdog that we call the SAPRA, that's the Health Products Regulatory Authority. And they've got two lines. Animal medication has to have strict withdrawal periods and testing, which human medicine doesn't have. So before your meat goes to the market, it has to have weeks after the medication has been provided. So they basically make sure that there is no residues of any medication left in the meat. So the consumer is getting medicine-free meat products. So unfortunately, in this case, if you just read it, you can see that there seems to be a lot of funny stuff going on with the meat. Like they say it's bland, or they say it has a different color, which is really concerning for a consumer.
What's the threat to human health?
Obviously, when you get these residues in of this HIV, because the animal's body is not going to break everything down. So getting little bits in eventually will create graft-resistant strain. So when the person really needs this sort of treatment, the option will not be there. So it will cause a treatment failure, which was supposed to be a life-saving HRV.
And as I understand it, this is not unique to Zimbabwe. There have been other cases in other countries where it wasn't just poultry, but pork as well.
They state that similar studies found in Uganda and Tanzania, where there were small studies that picked up, especially informal and small holdings, with what we call backyard breeding, where they conducted these sort of a messy mix of a cocktail, and it's also not very standardized. So I think it's whatever they can get their hands on, and it's particularly because the farmers are under stress. And the feed for animals can be quite expensive sometimes, and there's a lack of veterinary availability. So they turn to these potions to hope to produce, basically, put something on the table for their own family.
And as I understand it also, ARVs are in fact just one of the ingredients in this cocktail being given to the animals.
Yeah, exactly. The farmers have this messy mix. So you have this human source and whatever they can find, and this can be painkillers or human antibiotics. And I would say it's actually antibiotics that are keeping these chickens alive, because in these informal breeding systems, often hygiene is not high on the priority list. So the farmers often mistakenly give all the credit to the HIV pills, which there's absolutely no relation between keeping the animal healthy and the HRV pill.
Is enough being done, do you think, to stop this? And who should be doing it?
Well, in South Africa, we've got wonderful laws, and our things are highly regulated. The HRVs are controlled. You have to have a patient file. You go to a clinic. So yes, we do have strong laws, but enforcement will have to be improved, and we've got health inspectors and border police, and these veterinarians, they all work together. And probably there has to be more focus on the informal market to make sure that these ARVs don't leak out of the clinic where they are normally sourced from.
How likely could we see the development of, I don't know, some superbug or some disease develop from all of this?
Well, the HRV doesn't work on bacteria, but it can probably the little bit kill off weak germs, the strains which they are intended for, and leave the strongest ones alive. So these survivor strains, they mutate, and that's what we now call superbugs. They will stay on the meat because they contaminate the meat often during the slaughtering process and basically find themselves to our kitchens and cause infections that basically cannot be cured anymore by normal medicine. So your first line treatment options are basically disabled.
The World Health Organization has described antimicrobial resistance as a silent pandemic because, of course, it happens gradually and not everyone notices until the medicines just simply don't work, and then it's too late.
That's true. The World Health Organization has listed quite a number. There's quite a global awareness of antibiotic resistance. And many countries have banned certain antibiotics that are, or antimicrobials for that matter, that are used both, it used to be used both in humans and animals. So they banned the use of it in animals completely. In South Africa, it's not far behind. We have a very good regulator system, and there is much awareness of this sort of thing to make sure that the ultimate medications are really kept away from animal use whatsoever. So, yes, it is definitely an issue. And you can imagine something like an organ transplant or just someone undergoing chemotherapy. The devastation if those antibiotics or antimicrobials don't work anymore, that sort of medical treatment will just absolutely have a failure or weak outcome than was originally meant for.
Gosh, it speaks to all-round failure of health systems, of regulators and all sorts. It's happening in Zimbabwe now, and there have been other reports from other countries. And with migration patterns being what they are, one wonders, perhaps even worries if any of our medicines have been stolen from South African facilities to be a part of this mess. Appreciate your time. Linda Besta is the Deputy Chair of the Animal Research Ethics Committee at UKZN.